we're back.
Hello YouTube, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing Gears of War 4, and to be specific, we're going to be discussing what they need to do to actually make the game a great hit again like the original trilogy. So for anyone not up to date, I'll give you a quick refresh on all of this. The original Gears of War trilogy was an amazing series. It was made by Epic Games, and overall people loved the series. It had a well-developed story and lore, and it was further elaborated with books, and on top of that, the character development in the series was extremely well done. The atmosphere was awesomely crafted. There was a lot of horrific elements as well as serious elements and action-packed moments, but they had a lot of comedy to break it up with comic relief, and the writing for all of this was so fucking amazing. The trilogy had a really great finale as well, with Gears of War 3's conclusion really concluding the series overall. However, they did decide to continue on to make Gears of War Judgment. Gears of War Judgment was a prequel to the Gears of War trilogy, and it was set with some of the characters we're familiar with in the original trilogy at a younger point in their life. Now, Gears of War Judgment was a joint collaborated project between People Can Fly Games and Epic Games themselves. Now, Epic Games worked more as instructors, just kind of giving a little bit of tutelage and advice on making the game, whereas People Can Fly were actually the ones developing the actual foundation and most of the elements of the game itself, the story and the writing. Now, Gears of War Judgment wasn't as well received as the original trilogy. It felt like they just copy and pasted a lot of the elements over and hadn't really innovated anything themselves, especially towards most of the hardcore fans that were the ones that were really displeased with this. Now, Gears of War 4 is being handled by Coalition Games. It's a new company handling it completely, so they're going to be facing quite a few challenges. As to what I'm aware as well, they're not getting too much advice or insight from Epic Games themselves on how to develop this, although I wouldn't put it past them that they are definitely getting some assistance. I do think that from what I've seen on the trailers, the game looks promising, but in this video I'm going to be discussing what they need to do precisely to avoid what Gears of War Judgment became and what they can do to make this another hit in the franchise. So without any further delay, let's get right into the meat of the video itself.
It's go time, baby!
The first challenge I'm going to be discussing is the story and how the developers need to innovate the series rather than just adding a little bit to it. And that does seem to be the case anyway. So to anyone who is unaware or new to the franchise, the setting of Gears of War 4 takes place 25 years after the conclusion of Gears of War 3. We play as a character named James Dominique Phoenix, who is also known as JD, which is the son of our previous hero Marcus Phoenix, who played a major role in rescuing humanity from the Locust War of the previous game by activating an emulsion-based weapon that destroyed all of the Locust Horde across the planet. The humans of the planet began rebuilding after the Locust War, and that concluded with the COG becoming an overprotective government that has established a culture around increasing the human population back to acceptable numbers. Construction work and dangerous tasks overall have been outsourced to new robots instead of humans called DBs, outfitted with equipment appropriate to the task, be it manual labor or combat. To further enhance the dangers to the humans' dwindling population, a new enemy called the Swarm will be appearing, which will be an instantly recognizable enemy for their similarities to the Locusts of the old game. They've popped up attacking colonies and killing people as one would expect, as well as the emulsion countermeasure that was used in the conclusion of the third game, causing drastic weather effects such as lightning storms to rage across the unprotected environments. It looks like the government assumes a group of outsiders who are individuals who choose to live outside the protected cities and in the wild were the cause for the attacks, as the individuals are known for raiding COG stations and cities for supplies frequently. The game is probably going to escalate from fighting humans at the start of the game, with the Swarm not appearing until a little bit later, I assume. Another thing to note is that James Phoenix will actually be playing as a somewhat outcast from the COG in this game. Originally, JD joined the COG militia to the dismay of Marcus. However, a classified incident caused JD and a teammate Dell to go AWOL from the COG and seek refuge from the outsiders. One of the companions will also be an outsider befriended by JD after this incident, who is called Kate Diaz. Her history is a tragic one, with her parents leading a group of outsiders during the post-Locust era, trying to help them survive, which actually resulted in her father's miserable ending. Kate was raised with a more tribal perspective, free of technology technology, learning to survive using the wild and lands around her. We're honestly off to a good start. The writing here for the characters and their history is quite interesting. It definitely grips the player and makes you want to learn more. You want to know about the history, how the universe has been rebuilding over the last 25 years. Where have all the other characters from the previous trilogy gone, and how have they lived their lives up to now? How much of the humans technologically and culturally advanced? How much of the weather effects changed the lands? Why are people choosing to live in outside cities in harsh environments where people should be more miserable? Who is this swarm, and how are they actually different from the original locusts and lambents? There are so many questions to ask, and the writing has been developed in a way to answer those questions as we progress the campaign, like in the first trilogy. Short bursts of information are made known from the previous early trailers and gameplay, but we miss so many vital elements that must have occurred, and it will be lovely to see where the story takes us, but they definitely have already set us up for an immersive and beautiful experience. So I think the story challenge has definitely been achieved. Gears of War Judgment, again going back to that, didn't have the greatest story. It was something that we already knew about, and to be honest, they didn't really add anything more to the series, but Gears of War 4 looks like it's going to be a beautiful innovation. So without any more on that, let's get into the next challenge. The next challenges I'm going to be talking about are gameplay related, so I'm going to be covering these under a different section. However, the gameplay of Gears of War has always been a mix between fast-paced reflex shooting and strategical cover-based action. The unique balance between the two was achieved with the weapons that we were given in the game, with each weapon having a unique personality, a unique feel, and a unique way to be used. There were variations on the same personality, such as the Pendulum Lancer and the regular Lancer, which are both rifle-type guns, the Nasher shotgun versus the double-barreled shotgun, but overall, each type of weapon had its own style, and even within the same styles, differences did exist. Pendulum Lancer, for example, was a good short to mid-range weapon, but it had lots of recoil, but it also had high damage, while the regular Lancer had a faster rate of fire and accuracy, but it had less damage overall and worked in sustained fire to really pressure enemies afar from regenerating health or advancing on your position. The weapon's unique personalities was further enhanced by active reloads, a system where players can try to attempt to hit a small bar reloading, which when successful reloads the gun almost instantly, and when failed, it would make the player's reload take almost twice as long in some instances. Active reloads could also give additional damage and effects to the weapon when applicable, as well as a faster reload. Standard guns like the Nasher shotgun would gain a damage boost, but weapons like the Torque bow would charge faster, the boom shot would have an extra field of explosions, the Pendulum Lancer gained heavy amounts of suppression, which slowed enemies trying to rodeo run at you to an incredible amount. The variety in weapons really enhanced the playstyles of players, as well as balanced that strategic cover-based shooting system with the fast-paced wall bouncing system, and allowed players to have weapons to fit both playstyles at the same time. This enhanced how a player could challenge the campaign and enemies, and it changed how you can progress through the areas, as well as increased strategical elements players can pull off when playing with friends and using several different loadouts, having an answer to any possible situation the AI can throw at them. I've heard a lot about the multiplayer elements having an active reload system with a cooldown for competitive balancing. However, I'm not sure if that would fit into the single player well, and I'm interested to see how that pans out when the game is finally released, as the active system having a cooldown between users, as well as being available any time without previously needing to fire bullets, as was a staple in the older games. So basically, in the older games, like I just said, you had to empty out your weapon before you could active reload it, and say you only basically got rid of half of your clip, you could reload and you'd only give the active reload benefit, which was the extra damage and additional effects on the bullets that you'd already had missing, so that when you active reload now, you can do it without emptying your bullets out. But as I said, in the online, they've added a cooldown system, which may be under revision since beta, but I don't think that would be in the single player, as I think that it'd be a little bit dumb. However, I do think it could fit quite well into the harder difficulties to have such a system, as it would definitely increase the brutality of the campaign and make it much more of an achievement to complete it. I also want to talk about some of the other features that we're used to in other Gears of Wars. The vehicles are one of them, which is something I hope make a return. We've rode everything from centaurs to brumacs, and each Gears of War game is one or multiple action sequences on a vehicle which end up in a thrilling experience where the player is on death's grip fighting to survive. Vehicle combat in the games hasn't been the most fleshed, with the vehicles being a little clunky. The sections needed to be repeated more than other sections due to unfair deaths, so this is definitely something I hope that is looked into for vehicles, as it was one of the most frustrating elements when actually using them, as well as the checkpoints in the vehicle sections were a little bit sparse, and again that enhanced the frustration from trying to complete these sections. Final stand moments are another thing that definitely need to return. There have been so many instances of hopeless situations that the game has thrown at us. Epic was known for really constructing some of the greatest last stands in gaming history, pinning us up against hundreds of enemies without any hope of survival. All of our beloved characters that were developed and had survived the enduring slaughter with us had their fate put into question. These situations throw in so much emotional investment from us. They draw us into the moment and really get the blood pumping. Epic Games has done an incredible job of throwing these situations in just at the right moment. They serve as an epic conclusion to the chapters, which gives us a huge sense of accomplishment, like we had just destroyed a large boss, which is another point I'd like to make. Bosses are a huge part of the Gears of War franchise. They may not look like traditional bosses in, say, a Dark Souls game, but the bosses are well developed by any standards. They all have unique personalities with a huge diversity between what we face. We face everything from humanoid locusts to giant dinosaur-like brumac creatures. Each enemy, even if it is a variation of a standard foe, feels extremely unique. You really get the presence that bosses are huge war machines, an enemy worth taking down. They also provide a good release of tension and emotional relief from getting revenge on the locusts that have been ravaging humanity for so long. It's of severe importance that this aspect is done well, and I really hope we'll be fighting enemies like the giant riftworm in Gears of War 2. It's not only how these bosses are fought, but how they are introduced. Gears is known for showing bosses far before we encounter them, to give the player the sense of dread and destruction that boss is capable of. It instills a sense of fear to the player when we are finally brought to a confrontation, while also alleviating us heavily when we have finally slayed them, because we know what they were doing, what they were capable of, what we have stopped. The bosses in Gears of War have always been memorable. I'll never forget when we fought General Ram on the train at the ending of the original Gears of War. Although the fight wasn't that incredible itself, the environment we were on, the moving train at hundreds of miles per hour, fighting him, as well as the emotional release to get back at one of the leaders of humanity's greatest enemies, was a huge satisfaction. There are a lot of challenges when it comes to gameplay, and I could honestly make a full 30-minute video on that alone, but I do want to get to the next topic, which will be character writing.
Hey, I thought you'd enjoy the witty irony of grub on glowy violence. Yeah, it's fucking hilarious. You're gonna blow up the whole ship, genius.
The characters are probably the most amazing aspect of what makes a Gears of War game what it is. I haven't found many series in all types of media that really rival the passion, the hilarity, the suffering, and the joy that the Gears of War cast has. We had the resolute Marcus Phoenix, who is an unstoppable machine with no ability to hold back. Dominique, who was always there to aid him and act as a pillar of support and a reasonable voice. Baird, who was the lovable, sarcastic jackass that I honestly personally relate to. Absolutely love this guy. And Coltrane, who has an inability to actually ever take the situation seriously as he rolls out pun after pun while smashing locust skulls. The characters each have such a unique personality. They are all so completely different from each other, yet manage to synergize in such a perfect way. It's not to say that they don't have disagreements, but the ensuing arguments are always hilarious, and the characters just feel realistic because of it. You really get this sense of camaraderie between the main cast. They are all brothers in arms fighting for survival. They all have to keep each other's backs and leave no man behind, and you really get that sense of atmosphere based on their interactions and dialogue with each other. There are so many serious and dramatic moments in Gears of War. Another great part about the writing is how specific characters like Baird and Coltrane still manage to address the situations while bringing a twisted sense of sarcasm to the fights, which allow us to break from the depressing reality of the situation. on. The character's development over the span of the series is also one of the most amazing you'll ever find in a game. The characters really do grow and change between the games. Specific events definitely have consequences on the character's actions and perception of the world overall afterwards. Such an event is Dom finding out about his wife's final story when he had to put the gun to her face and end her.
Marcus, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, man.
No. It's okay.
Not only do moments like this make us absolutely crawl and put heartbreak into us, but we really see the characters develop after that, and we develop a strong emotional attachment to them as well. Those things are not forgotten, even in sequels. Gears of War 4 needs to remember the roots it comes from, and keep the characters as well balanced while keeping comic relief a huge part of the story. There is no way the game will end up being a hit if we don't have a character dedicated to witty one-liners, if we don't see them develop, if we don't have brutal events that really change the core inner being. This is probably the most important aspect in my opinion, and I'm really hoping they pull through on this. I have a few more points to make, but the video is getting quite long in length for what I'm used to, so I'm going to end it soon. If this video gets enough interest, I might make more Gears of War 4 videos doing analysis about the series and other things like this. If not, I'll still be grabbing the game and playing it when it's released, so look forward to that if you enjoyed the content. But for now, I'm going to end the video here. I hope you guys are looking forward to Gears in general, and I hope you've loved the series overall as much as I have. Take it easy, guys, and peace.